Hi, hello, and welcome to my first ever piece of fan art that I have ever done in my life. Now, if you've watched some of my sketchbook tours, you might see in total about 5 studies I did, but that was me recreating a very specific pose or image. This is the first time I've actually tried to draw fan art of a character by experimenting with poses and angles. And of course, I had to draw Sevika looking down on me because have you seen Sevika? I mean, the camera really likes to shoot a bottom up. I even showed my dad some clips of Sevika, and he said the camera angles are weird. And then I told him to think of it from a fan's perspective, and he immediately said, "Oh, I get it now." So yeah, and Sevika isn't even his type. He just understood why it is the camera is always down looking up. I think Sevika is the best thing to come out of Arcane, and I say that as an Arcane apathetic viewer. I wasn't a fan of Arcane, but it wasn't bad enough for me to hate it, which is arguably worse. Because you don't want, when you're creating a piece of entertainment, to be so boring people think it's apathetic. Like, it's very nice to look at, lots of flashing colors and art, I guess. I don't really like the outfits they put the characters in, but the faces and bodies of the characters I do like. And the music for Arcane was good, but I could not get into the show. I did not enjoy it. I was very bored. There were times where I would stop watching and go to use the bathroom and then come back and not want to finish and just go to sleep. But I did really enjoy some aspects of Arcane, and one of those aspects is Sevika. Love this woman. Hated Jinx, but love Sevika. Melon and Bessa, I did like more in season 2, and I really liked Caitlyn and Vi from season 1. But Sevika is just the character that I consistently love from the first time I saw her to the last time I saw her. And look, I even gave her fingernails and lips and I think pupils, which is not something I usually draw, but she's special to me, so I made sure to treat her extra nice. And one of the things about Arcane is that the writing is so amateurish and bad that everybody who told me to watch it, even the people who loved Arcane, told me that I just have to get through the first 3 episodes. They're like, don't judge the show until you're done with the first 3 episodes, because the story actually starts from episode 4. And I was like, okay, so if the story starts from episode 4, why do we have 3 episodes coming before it? Like, those 3 episodes should have been compressed into one, or, if I was the editor, I would have scratched them completely and just worked in all those plot points into the main story. But then I despise time skips, and if I knew there was going to be a time skip in season 1, I wouldn't have even bothered watching the show to begin with. So that should tell you what I like. And even when I entered season 2, because I only watched this show recently after season 2 came out, I've been putting it off for so long. And season 2 started off so boring. I even saw, again, you have to get past the first 3 episodes. I was going to drop the show until I saw Sevika's fight with Smeech, and it was so cool that I immediately got up and went to show my dad and my brother how cool this fight scene was. It was so cool. Sevika got the best fight scenes out of the entire show, and she's a side character. Because I really liked her 2 fight scenes with Vi, and then I loved her fight scene with Smeech, and then I also loved the other fight scene with Caitlyn, Jinx, and Isha. Even though I didn't like Isha or Jinx. But yeah, Sevika got some really good scenes. And I think one of the things that I like about Sevika is that she's interesting because a lot of her character has to be inferred by watching the show, like watching her actions and like reading in between the lines. For instance, with her arm, a lot of people talk about how Sevika's arm says who's the leader of Zorn. So her flesh arm means that Vander is the leader, then Silco, then Jinx, and then she doesn't have one in the end because she's now the leader. And that is interesting, not what I'm referring to. When we see Sevika fighting, we see her adapt and change every next fight. So, like, when she fought Vi in the first season, Caitlyn shoots the shimmer injector in her shoulder. So when she fights Vi in the next fight scene with her, she has the vials with shimmer in a belt that she takes off and she puts into her arm manually so that she could still use her arm and it can't be shot. And then we see her adding in the knife into her fist after she stabbed Vi. So I thought that was really cool because that's something I didn't even notice until somebody pointed it out. And then when I went and rewatched the Sevika scenes, just the Sevika scenes, because I couldn't care any less for what Jason Victor was up to. Politics of the show was boring. I've read fanfiction that did the Zon Piltover politics better than what was actually in the show. So yeah, that was really good. I think the animators did a lot to put in what the writing itself was missing. If I was the director, I would have told them to stop working on the animation, we're going back to the drawing board and we are tightening this story until it is perfect. Because it's easy to forgive bad animation, but I can't forgive a bad story, and the story for this show was kinda trash. Anyway, there's something else that I noticed, and it's that Sevika never really brings up losing her arm. No, not never really. She doesn't bring up losing her arm in any of the fights she has with Silco or Jinx. And most people refer to her softer side when it comes to her protecting Isha and Jinx in season 2. But I actually think that it's more telling of a person's character when they don't hold something like that over their heads. Like, she lost her arm protecting Silco, but she never brings that up to manipulate him with. And Jinx is the one who set off the explosion that she lost her arm, but even though she hates Jinx in season 1, she never brings it up. And I really like that. By the way, what the hell is shimmer? Is it a drug, a medicine, magic? It's none of those things. It's a plot device that the writers can use to do whatever they want. I keep asking people who say they've watched Arcane, what is shimmer? And nobody can tell me what shimmer is. And I didn't want to look it up because I believe that if you're analyzing a piece of media, it has to be self-contained. I should not have to go to any website or book or anything to look for answers for stuff that should be in the text. Especially because shimmer is such a big part of the story to begin with that it seems kind of stupid that they never really explain what shimmer is. Another thing I noticed is that a lot of people call Sevika a traitor, except she never betrays anyone. I get why to Vi it would look like she did betray Vanda, but Sevika never lied about her allegiances. I mean, just because Finn was an idiot doesn't mean she lied when she told him that he was wasting his time trying to turn her into a traitor. Her resigning and calling Vanda weak and then removing herself is not a betrayal. Resigning is not betrayal no matter what your boss is trying to tell you. I also like that while Sevika enjoys fighting and enjoys pissing people off when she's fighting, even if she's tied to a chair, she still really likes pissing off Jinx. She didn't attack Vi when her back was turned or when she was lying on the ground. Like, even when she stabs Vi, they're looking at each other face to face, and I respect that in a person. Speaking of Vi and bad writing, also bear in mind, I do like Vi. I like Vi, I like Caitlyn, I like Mel, and Bessa. I like them. I just wish the story was better. But there were two things that bothered me about their first fight scene. The first is that the first time we ever see Vi and Sevika together before the time skip is when they're fighting in the warehouse, and they still don't even interact because Silco doesn't let Sevika join the fight that the shimmered enforcer, brutes, thugs, people were fighting. So that doesn't even count because they didn't interact. So Vi's anger at Sevika's betrayal feels hollow and unearned. She didn't hear the conversation with Vanda. So does she even know Sevika? The second thing is that Vanda supposedly taught Vi how to fight, but in the Vi and Sevika fight, Sevika's comments make a lot more sense if Sevika was the one who taught her to fight. Like when she comments on how Vi is still blocking things badly or with her face. I didn't look back at the scene, but I just remember her critiquing Vi's fighting. And it makes more sense if Sevika was the one who trained. And also their fighting style is pretty similar. We don't even get to see Vanda fight, so I can't make connection between Vi and Vanda. To be honest, I never really felt the connection between her and Vanda, even when he died and we had the good song, Remember Me by David. Them putting those memory watercolor scenes, to me felt very manipulative, because you're trying to write in a past that you never gave us with the character, and by that point, I did not care. I only cared because I cared about Vi. I didn't care about Vanda, so him losing his memories to me made no difference to how I saw his character. Anyway, the writers could have fixed the relationship between Sevika and Vi and added more tension to it in a few different ways. So, for instance, in the conversation where Sevika calls Vanda weak, have Vi be a witness and Sevika pass her on the way out. What you choose to do with them interacting in that scene will dictate how we then see their relationship going forward. So, have them exchange a few words. If Vi asks if Sevika isn't going to be around anymore and Sevika ignores her, then they're not really close. If Vi asks if training is off and Sevika says she needs to ask her dad, then they are close and the betrayal is going to hit harder. If Vi asks what Sevika plans to do and Sevika tells her to stay out of it and keep her nose clean, then they know each other in passing but they aren't that close. If Vi says nothing to Sevika, but Sevika ruffles her hair when they pass, then they're close. But, and this is important because we know that Vi and Sevika actually agree on the view that Zon should be fighting against Piltover. Then when that argument happens and Vi is in the room, we could have a more interesting three-way conversation where Vanda could even accuse Sevika of filling Vi's head with nonsense, since they're both angry women who want to fight the people they think is an enemy. And then that could even give us a more interesting dynamic when Vi finds out that Sevika and Jinx are both now with Silco. That would make the betrayal really hit home because they were on the same side. But as far as we know, they didn't even know each other. Like, maybe Sevika knew her in passing so that when Vi showed up again she knew who she was. Or maybe Jinx just told her about Vi. So the two fights, to me, don't have any emotional weight, even though I loved the scene themselves. The animation of the show is very good. I've always liked the Riot League of Legends animations and even the Valorant animations, even though I don't play the games myself. By the way, a lot of people think that she wanted Vanda to give up the kids, but I don't believe so, because in Season 2, she refuses to give up Jinx, and she hates Jinx. And she says they don't give up their own. I think what she expected Vanda to do is to finally start fighting, and then was disappointed when he rolled over like a dog. I also saw somebody post a comment on one of the many Sevika videos that I have been watching, that Silco's biggest mistake was not fostering a respect for Sevika in Jinx. And I have to agree with that. Because in Season 2, Jinx is the most consistently sane when she's around Sevika. She doesn't have as many hallucinations, and her speech is clearer, and she makes better decisions, and Sevika can get her to do things she would normally not do. Isha can do it as well, but Isha is a plot device, not a character, so we'll just ignore her. If Silco had made Jinx listen to Sevika, I think Sevika could have gotten Jinx under control, but he indulged Jinx too much, which is something that does cause problems in the story, so we know how that played out. I'm just saying, he should have taken advantage of the fact that Sevika was there. Now, saying all of that, you probably think that I actually wanted to get more screen time, but I think her amount of screen time in Season 1 is perfect. We got enough to make her interesting, but not enough to make her feel like a main character. And it left us with enough of a personality that amazing fanfics can be written, with no real backstory that could affect the fanfiction. So I've actually read some really good fanfics, and I will talk about that near the end where I'll recommend a few. My only problem with her screen time is that she got none in Act 3, which felt like a waste because she was building this relationship with Jinx and Isha, and then Isha dies, and then we just don't see Sevika after that until the end, and we don't even see her hearing that both Isha and Jinx are dead. Of course, the relationship is dependent on how much time that they did spend with each other, and one of the biggest criticisms I have for Arcane is that they never clarify how much time is passing. So, like, I know a lot of people are angry with Caitlyn for cheating, in quotations, with Maddie, but the thing is, she only knew Vi for a few days. They were never really together. And because the time skip doesn't really tell us if it's been a few weeks or months or years in between she hitting Vi with the gun and leaving Vi crying. Yeah, I almost started hating Caitlyn for that. She got me around by the end of the season, but I didn't like that. But if like a year has passed, then her moving on with Maddie is not cheating, because she and Vi were never together. And that's also a problem with Sevika and Jinx's relationship, because we do see Sevika cut her hair, but how much time has really passed? I don't know, so I don't know how much I should care. One of the things I do like about the writing, so I'll give the writers props for this, is that if this was another show, Sevika would be the main character. Her storyline fits a main character storyline, and I think the writers did well for the most part in making the side characters feel like main characters in their own story and not plot devices for the main characters, except for Isha, because Isha sucks. The rest of them are full characters, but not plot devices, like Isha. I was actually worried that she was going to die in the final episode, unlike when Isha died, because I didn't care. Brat was waving a death flag the moment she walked on screen, so I was waiting for Isha to die so we can get it over with. I wasn't surprised. I knew it was going to happen the moment I saw small cute girl who can't speak. I was like, she's dead. There's no point in forming any connection with her because she's going to die. Oh, another thing I realized that they did, Sevika shows a lot of good range of emotion, so it does make her feel more like a person. I even like that scene where she tells Silco that she never saw eye to eye with her father and to let Jinx cool off. And then after he dies and she and Jinx are talking about him in his office, she doesn't talk about him like a boss. I think she talks about him more like a father figure. Like, Silco was the stepdad, with Sevika being the older sister with all the responsibility and Jinx being the favorite spoiled one. I would never talk about any boss the way they talked about Silco in his office after his death, where they were making fun of him. I also wouldn't be lost if my boss died. If my dad died, that would be a different case. Not my boss. I have no connections to somebody who would just write me a paycheck. Even if we spend time together, there's a disconnect. They talk about Silco in a similar way that my family and I talk about my dead grandmother, of how we joke about her good points and her bad points. And it's also similar to the way when my friends are talking about their dead fathers. I kind of like that view because it actually makes the relationship between Sevika and Jinx make more sense after the father figure dies, the sisters get closer. It also kind of makes me want to see what it would have been like if we got to see Sevika growing up with Vander and Silco and we got more backstory. But she's not the main character, so we're not going to get that. I do have one question though. Is Sevika rich? We see her gambling and winning, and she's Silco's right hand, so she must be, but she doesn't dress or act like it. I'm drawing her clothes in this video, and I hate her clothes. I hate her outfits. I generally hate all the outfits in this show. It makes no sense, and it really hits home when I try to draw it, that these things are just put in to look cool, and I don't think they look cool, so I don't like it. I think Sevika is cool because I really like Sevika, and I like her buff arms. Anybody who knows me knows that nice biceps can make up for a bad personality, but Sevika also has a good, interesting personality that needed to be explored more. Sevika is also the only character that we actually see mingling with the commoners. Silco is always stuck in his office or speaking with the Chem Barons. Jinx is insane. And Echo has a very small group of people he works with that he also gets killed on a regular basis. But the only person we actually see walking the streets of Zaun is Sevika. That's why I can't really get behind people saying that Echo should have been the one on the council. He doesn't feel as connected to Zaun as Sevika does. He lives in a small haven where everybody is happy, while her boots are dirty from the streets and we actually see her interacting with the average everyday Zaunite. That's why when people start to rally behind Jinx, it felt stupid to me. I hate Jinx, so liking her feels ridiculous to begin with. Having Sevika get the support of the average person would have made her transition to Counselor make more sense. They didn't even thank her when she rescues them from Stillwater, they're just so focused on Jinx. Sevika does so much work, and she gets beaten up so many times in this show, and nobody thanks her for her job. She needs more appreciation. Okay, that was the story and her character and stuff. I want to talk about shipping. So, I've been on AO3 recently, and I actually like scrolling through the ships to see what is going on. The Sevika Silco ship is a cursed ship, and I'm glad that's not popular. The Sevika Jinx ship makes me want to throw up. Though it's not as bad as a Jilko ship, which is not the Jason Silco ship that I originally thought about. A Jinx Silco ship, which is gross. Sevika Vi ship though. I've read one story that mainly dealt with Vi's trauma. She ends up with Sevika, but it's mainly about Vi's trauma called These Terrors Gripping. That's 4 parts and really good. Do not read it if you're depressed or you need trigger warnings on your story because it gets dark sometimes. But most people forget that Vi is a character who has been through a lot of trauma, more than Jinx has, and not just some doll made to kiss Caitlyn. No, the reason I don't like the Sevika Jinx ship is the age gap, so you would think that would make me bothered with the Sevika Vi ship, but I think the reason why that one doesn't make me as uncomfortable, like I don't like it. I enjoyed that one story, but I don't like the ship. But the difference is that Sevika saw Jinx grow up from a little kid, so that feels like grooming. Compared to Vi, who, for all we know, they didn't even meet face to face until Vi knees her in the face after the time skip. So it doesn't feel like grooming, it feels like 2 adult women who met as adults versus the Sevika Jinx ship, which is gross. Now the Sevika Mel ship, I did not expect, but I have been joining the crew for this one. Like, I'm not fully on board, but I have read some good stories, so I like it. I don't ship them in the show, but in the stories I ship them. Gilded Sin is a really good one that's currently ongoing. Once the disappointment of the extra long sex scenes wears off. The plot is good, but I don't care for sex scenes in any of my media. I don't like them. I think they're a waste of my time, so my eyes just automatically glaze over sex scenes. But apart from that, I'm sure most of you listening to this video would enjoy the sex scenes. I just don't enjoy them. The funny part about this one is that Mel is apparently the daughter of a god, which I know is non-canon compliant. In this story, that's what she is. And at first I thought that came out of nowhere, then I remembered who her mother was. Mbessa would 100% have sex with a god. I'm sure she's already sampled a few of them, and I do think the Sevika Mel ship could work. I think their personalities do complement each other, but it's not as popular as I would want it to be, so there's not as much stories. I know a lot of fanfiction is just sex scenes. That's it. That's just it. There is no plot. Once you wade through all the fluids, you find some actually good gems. Now, the Sevika Reader ship, I totally expected this one to be the most common pairing. I know that all you horny readers want Sevika for yourself, and I support that. I get it. You don't even want Sevika to be with another person in the story. You're like, no, Sevika is for the fans, Sevika is for us. She's not for any of the characters, she is for us. And I agree with that. I do love Sevika. Popular by Emptiness to Melody on AO3 is a pretty interesting one where Sevika and the Reader, where the Reader character does have personality and brains, and she's so manipulative. She's trying to help Sevika while she's on the council to get funding for Zaun and stuff, and the way she goes about it, I have seen less political manipulations in actual political dramas than in this one. So that one was good. But you know what? I need to throw my hand into the ring. I'm not writing any fanfics. I haven't written any fanfics since my early 20s, so a few years ago. But I do want to throw in one tip that I think can work, and I wish this was a thing. Sevika Steb. Steb is that fish guy who was on Caitlyn's Enforcer team, and he was even instrumental in the final war in the final episode. Yeah, that's Steb. The guy doesn't say a word, but I would have cried if he died. Isha got no tears from me, and she never will, but Steb would have made me cry. Steb is a brave man who cares about people and has sympathy for Zorn, and we actually see him act very bravely and sympathetically to people. I think Sevika would appreciate his loyalty and caring nature and the fact that he doesn't talk a lot, while also being the one who would tell the waiter that he was given the wrong food. I think he kind of needs a strong woman in his life to do the talking for him. I think it could work. Come on, tell me it can't work. Let me know in the comments if this can work. Quick thing, other characters I liked from the show, even though I didn't like the show. Season 1, Caitlyn and Vi. Vi is super cute, and that wink she gives to Jace could cure my depression if I put it on loop. Like, between her wink and Bayu's wink from Guardian, I would be so much happier if every time I got sad, I just had a loop of those wings working on my screen. I love it. It's so good. I know wings are very cringe, but they work on me for some reason. So, oh, well. Caitlyn was adorable in season 1. Personality-wise, she was so cute. But that black turtleneck and that eye patch at the end of season 2 does things to me and for me. So... And then something about her calling Vi predictable was so hot. Like, I couldn't care less for the actual sex scene between them. I did rewatch her calling Vi predictable in that voice of hers a few times. I really like that. The voice actress did her perfectly. Ambessa. Look, I don't know how I feel about Ambessa. She makes me uncomfortable, but in the exact way she's supposed to make me feel uncomfortable. Like that scene where she's talking to Jace and she's getting a bath. I was so uncomfortable in that scene. Me and Jace were feeling the exact same things. And I love her, but I also hate her, and I think she's just perfect for the show. She's just a good character. And we'll leave it at that. Grayson shouldn't have died so soon. That made me sadder than when Isha died. Mel deserves so much better than Jace. I wasn't a huge fan of her in season 1, but she won me over in season 2. I really like Mel. I didn't like Silco, but his story was interesting. In conclusion, while I would willingly give my heart to Vi if she ever winks at me, Sevika could rip my heart out from my chest with her bare hands and I would thank her for it. So thanks for listening to me ramble about my favorite character in a show I don't even like, but I love her. Like I've said over and over in this video. If you like my art, then make sure to follow me on Instagram, subscribe, like, leave a comment telling me what you like. I should mention that Clip Studio Paint gave me a headache for this drawing, so it took me a while. It was just hard getting used to this new program like I've mentioned in my other videos. If you like my art, definitely check out my other videos. I recently posted a sketchbook tour and videos of my own characters that I'm working on in Stories, the Gother Experiment, and the Healing Flame. And I just really love characters and stories, so definitely check those out. Let me know who your favorite character is and why, and if you also love Sevika. And if you have any recommendations for fanfics that are not just erotic scenes, leave me a link or a name or something, because lately I've been reading a lot of novels that the stories are less well written than fanfiction. We'll just leave it at that. Thanks again for watching, and I really hope to see you in another video. I usually do videos about my own characters and my own stories. This was just a nice treat because I wanted to talk about Sevika, and nobody else in my immediate vicinity has watched Arcane or understands my love for this woman, and I needed to get it out of my system. I don't know how to end this video, so later.